In this video, I'm going to talk about the best CRM for designers. I'm a wedding invitation designer, but this could be any kind of designer, web designer, graphic designer, all kinds. I'm going to focus on things that are really important to designers like customization, aesthetic, ease of use, and also specifically proofing back and forth with your clients because that's really important in a lot of design businesses, mine included. I've explored 5 different CRMs really heavily, and there's a lot more videos here on my channel, as well as a full comparison chart feature by feature that I'll link in the description of this video. But I want to focus on the best ones for designer. And overall, I'm just going to spoil it. I think Dubsado is probably my top choice for a lot of different reasons. It's very user-friendly, price is pretty good, and it's got specific proofing and workflow automation features that I think you'll really enjoy. So all of these systems have some level of like invoicing, contracts, email communication, proposals, accepting payments, etc. But where Dubsado really shines is specifically in this workflow area, and I'll show you their proofing in just a second. So when I talk about workflows, these are automations, and this is where you can automatically do things in your business. So instead of having to send an email to someone saying, thanks for reaching out, here's my pricing, you can set that up to automatically go. Instead of creating to-do lists for yourself, you can create an automatic action to do that. You can even send forms, send emails, you can archive the project, so moving it from one status to another, and all kinds of other things. If we look at the different actions we can do, there's all kinds of things. You can tag, email, form, contract, send invoice, create invoice, and there's some meta actions like pausing the workflow, holding the actions until something happens, or requiring approval on an action. And here's all the different triggers you can use. So you can do like before or after the project start end date, after a form is completed or an invoice is paid in full, or even after a form is not completed. So you can build these workflows to automate things in your business, which is going to be so powerful. As far as customization, you have all of these different types of forms that you can use: contracts, sub-agreements, questionnaires, proposals, and then lead captures, which is like a contact form. And you can customize in so many ways. As an example, you can add a container to your form, and then if you double click the container, you can change things like the background color, the width, the number of columns. There's all kinds of things you can do to customize these forms, and then you can add things into the container such as images, dividers. There's just all kinds of things you can do on these forms, and they apply to all of the different form types here in Dubsado. So it's pretty easy to pick up because you can edit the forms the same way on all different form types, but you still do have a level of customization here. One of my favorite features in Dubsado for designers is the subcontract type of form. So we have our contract on the full job, but then when you're sending proofs, you also want a signature form field. So the subcontract allows for that. And you can edit it in all the same ways that I showed you a second ago. So I've added my mock-up here, some text information about the job, and then we have individual pictures of all the individual proofs. You can also add things like yes or no questions, revision boxes, all kinds of question types here. And we even have a link to our address template that's going to be really helpful for my clients to fill out. But what makes a subcontract different than other types of forms is it has this signature field right here. And this is going to capture the IP address, the time, the location, etc. So if you ever did have to go to court over anything, you always have this, but in general, you're probably not going to have to go to court, but you do have this form to show what they specifically signed off on. And it's a legally binding e-signature. So as a designer, that's something that's really important to me. And those are some of my favorite features here in Dubsado and why Dubsado is probably my #1 pick. One thing about Dubsado that's kind of frustrating is they haven't put out a lot of updates in a long time. If you watch any of my old videos, it looks very similar and it has a lot of the same features as it's had for a long time. They are currently working on their 3.0, which I'm a beta tester for, and I have high hopes for things they'll be able to release once that is done, but that's going to take some time. They started out really feature heavy and ahead of everyone else, but they've kind of allowed other systems to catch up a little bit. Specifically, HoneyBook is one that I think has caught up and even surpassed Dubsado as far as features. It's a little bit more expensive, but they do have even more features, and they've integrated a lot of really cool reporting and AI features and help you run your business a little bit better. So it's kind of very close second, but does a lot of the same things as Dubsado. They even have this new Automations 2.0, which is kind of their workflows. And I think Automations 2.0 is actually better than Dubsado's workflows in some ways. You start here and you can either describe what you want and AI will help you build it, or you can select one of these like common things, or you can start from scratch. So if we select this new client onboarding, you'll see what's incorporated in here. So let's just go into their automation builder, which I think is just so intuitive and easy to use with this like workflow look to it. So first, after the payment is made, we wait for 5 minutes and then we send a file via email. Then we wait for 3 days and we do a questionnaire. And if the questionnaire was submitted, yes, then it's going to send a certain email. And if the questionnaire was not submitted, we'll send a different email. So this is called conditional logic, relying on what the client does. So if the client did fill out the questionnaire, we'll send one email and do one thing. If the client did not, then we can send a reminder email or something. So while they have fewer actions, let's see what all the actions are. Okay, so there's decent actions here. It's going to be fewer than we have on Dubsado. We also have like waiting, and then we have the conditions here as well. So even though there are technically fewer actions you can do in your automations, I love the conditional logic. And I also think that HoneyBook's new file templates allow for a customization that you can't have in Dubsado. So in Dubsado, you have these 5 types of forms: contracts, sub-agreements, questionnaires, proposals, and lead captures. And in HoneyBook, they've basically broken this up into different types of blocks. So there's invoice, contract, questionnaire, services, which is like a proposal, and a scheduler. And what you do is you can create any sort of combination of all of those things in a specific file. So for instance, this proposal and client onboarding has several different pages. So this is a services block, which allows them to select their services. And then we have an actual invoice block that's based on what they select in their services. We have a contract block here on page 3. We have a deposit block where they can actually pay the invoice, and then they can go directly into their questionnaire. So imagine sending this to your client. They can select the service they want. They can see the invoice, sign the contract, pay the invoice, and do the onboarding questionnaire all in one file, and you've only had to create one specific template. So all of these things can be combined in a number of ways here in HoneyBook, which makes it more customizable. However, it's a little bit more difficult to understand. I have some further videos that dive deep on this. And this is also how I'm going to do proofing here in HoneyBook. So we basically just have text and image blocks, and you can see the customization level is very similar. You can change the background of a container. You can add all kinds of things here, but all the different blocks you have, like text, images, questions, are all very similar. You also have this Canva integration, which I think is really cool. If you design stuff in Canva, you can bring it directly in here. And then any of your action blocks are services, contract, invoice, and scheduler. So we have the mockup on page 1. We have each individual proof, as well as a place for them to leave revisions. And then the final page has this signature field, which is a contract block. So instead of having that on a specific type of form that requires a signature, we've just added a signature block onto this form with text and image blocks everywhere else. So I think you can see how the workflows, automations, customization, and proofing are somewhat similar in HoneyBook and Dubsado. I would say they're a little bit more user-friendly and streamlined in Dubsado. And then HoneyBook has a little bit more customization, which can get more complicated, but is also really helpful if you want to customize those things. Now there's 2 systems at kind of a lower level that don't really have that proofing, etc. So they are going to be a little bit simpler to pick up and set up. And that is going to be Bonsai and 17 Hats. You can do these questionnaires very similar to how you can do in the other systems, but you don't have the ability to like upload images. You don't have the ability to add that signature block. So there's not really a proofing option, even though there is this good questionnaire option. Kind of the same thing over here in 17 Hats. You can add a questionnaire, and they do have the image block here, but they don't have a signature block on here. So there's just a little bit less customization, and you can't do like the container where you change the background and you change the way it looks and all of that customization here in 17 Hats either. So these systems work really well, Bonsai and 17 Hats. I just think for designers, they're not going to be as aesthetically customizable, and they don't have that proofing. But if you do your proofing in a different system, you might like these because they might be a little bit easier to pick up. And then on our 3rd level, we have one called Rock, Paper, Coin. And what's cool about this system is it was kind of designed to be like the simplest thing out there. So it doesn't have as many features. It basically has like client tracking, leads, proposals, contracts, invoices, payment processing, and they do offer these client and company folders where you can share files with your clients. So kind of like a little internal client portal. They don't have like the custom forms and the automated workflows, but I do have a link that can get you a free year here. So in general, I don't recommend like choosing between these 4 on price, because I want you to choose based on features, and the prices are all in the same general range, about $20 to $40 a month, depending on which plans you choose. But with Rock Paper Coin, you can actually get an entire year for free of any of their plans, including their highest level plan. So if these are the features that you need and you want something where you can get set up in one day, they also offer white glove onboarding to all their clients. So you can really get set up very, very easily. It's not going to have proofing, it's not going to have questionnaires, etc. But if you build those out in other systems already, then you can use those via the client sharing, document sharing portal here. And this will be able to keep track of your clients, handle your contracts, proposals, and invoices as well. So I think it's kind of about how much customization you want, because customization can be a really good thing as a designer. It can also complicate a little bit more. So I think HoneyBook is going to be the highest level of customization. It's going to be a little bit more complicated to set up. I have a whole free setup course for you if you want help with that. And then you can also hire HoneyBook experts to help you with setup. Kind of the same thing with Dubsado. They do have Dubsado certified specialists that you can hire to help set up for you. Also, if you end up using HoneyBook, I'm going to link my client lookbook template, which goes through like sketching and lookbook for your clients. This is something you can click and it will download directly into your account, and then you can customize it for your clients. Dubsado is going to be very similar in that there's a lot of customization. I think it's a little bit more user-friendly, and the price is going to be a little bit lower here on Dubsado. For all of these, I do have discount links that'll get you somewhere around 30% off. So I'm going to put those in the description of this video as well, and I would just really appreciate if you use those. I will make a small commission. So in general, I think Dubsado just feels a little bit easier to pick up, but still has those levels of customization that you might want and that proofing ability. For designers specifically, HoneyBook feels a little bit more complex, a little bit more expensive, but a little bit more customizable too. So pros and cons. 17 Hats and Bonsai are going to be very similar as far as all of their features. They both also have like a bookkeeping or tax add-on. With 17 Hats, it's $5 a month. With Bonsai Tax, it's $10 a month, but that will help with all of your tax and bookkeeping, which is really cool. And then Rock Paper Coin is going to be the simplest to set up, but the least feature rich. However, you can get that free year with my link. So I think it's worth checking out if you just want to dip your toe and get some help with processing payments, contracts, etc. Let me know what you think. I have a full setup course for Dubsado and for HoneyBook free here on my YouTube channel. Also, tons more videos diving into all 5 of these systems. But if you are a designer, I'd love to hear which one you're going to try out and what features are important to you. If you use my discount links, I will make a small commission, and I'm super grateful if you do that. But let me know what you thought and which one you're going to test out today. Thanks, everyone.